The next stop on our cruise was the port of Naples. However, we could only do one excursion during this stop, either go into Naples or go to Pompeii. We chose Pompeii. It turned out there was so much more to see here that I had to split this into two videos. One is on the area where the better half lived, and the second businesses and community districts, and especially the brothels. As we sailed into the Naples harbor, you could see Vesuvius looming over the horizon. As we sailed into the port of Naples, I was well aware of my sort of macabre excitement and desire to see a place I had watched maybe 100 documentaries about, and the fact it was a place where a terrible disaster occurred, where many people met horrible deaths. The city was built on a rocky lava walls, which formed a natural defense in its western and southwestern portions, but it was also equipped with a 10,564-foot wall. Although we always think of Pompeii as a Roman city, the city walls were not actually built by the Romans, but by the local Italic people, an Osco-Seminite population long before the formal incorporation of the city into the Roman state in 80 BC. When the Romans took over the city, they redesigned it in the typical Roman fashion. The city of Pompeii was a popular vacation destination for the Romans. It is estimated that between 10,000 and 20,000 people lived in the city. Many wealthy Romans had summer homes in Pompeii and would live there during the hot summer months. Pompeii was actually a typical Roman city. The people of Pompeii enjoyed their entertainment. There was a large amphitheater that could seat around 20,000 people for gladiator games. There were also a number of theaters for plays, religious celebrations, and musical concerts. Pink Floyd filmed a live concert, not in Roman times, but in 1971. But the audience consisted only of the film's production crew and some local children. There were at least 31 bakeries in the town, each with wood-burning ovens and millstones and sales counters. These are fast food stands, kept warm by hot water. Maybe this was a McLuigi's. While touring the wealthy sections, you could see how some of their homes were decorated with frescoes, and in some places you were actually able to walk right up to them. The guide had to tell one woman 3 times to not touch the walls. The rich even had running water in their homes. Unlike many ancient slave-based cities of the ancient world, there appeared to be not too much nutritional difference between the wealthy and the poor, so it seemed that diet was pretty consistent in this society. There also appeared to be an actual middle class here, not ridiculously wealthy, but not desperately poor. Between 15,000 and 20,000 people lived in Pompeii and Herculaneum, and the majority of them actually survived the eruption. The eruption lasted for 2 days. The first phase was of the pumice rain, lasting about 18 hours, allowing most of the inhabitants to escape. Only approximately 1,000 bodies have so far been found on the site, which seems to confirm this theory. And most escapees probably managed to salvage some of their valuable belongings. Many skeletons were found with jewelry, coins, and silverware. The area around Pompeii experienced frequent earthquakes. In 62 AD, there was a huge earthquake that destroyed many of the buildings of Pompeii. The city was still rebuilding 17 years later when the disaster struck in 79 AD. The eruption of 79 AD destroyed the Roman cities of Pompeii, Herculaneum, Oplantis and Stabi, and several other settlements, killing approximately 30,000 people. Vesuvius is far from a dormant volcano. Its last eruption was in March 17, 1944, while the Allies were in this area. 26 Italian civilians were killed and nearly 12,000 were displaced. Most of those deaths occurred near Salerno, where heavy ashfall collapsed roofs on people. A slow-moving wall of volcanic rock, lava, and debris crushed and burned everything in its path. 88 B-25 Mitchell bombers, about $25 million worth of aircraft belonging to the 340th B-25 group, were destroyed. By the way, this is the same unit that the book Catch-22 was based on. Long before Mount Vesuvius buried Pompeii in rock and ash, the volcano erupted in an even more powerful explosion called the Avellino eruption. That affected the area occupied by present-day Naples. It left the region a desert wasteland for centuries afterwards. That eruption occurred about 3,780 years ago during the Bronze Age, and was at least twice as powerful as the one that smothered Pompeii and the nearby town of Herculaneum in 79 AD. The city was eventually forgotten about until about the 1700s, when archaeologists of that time started to dig the city out. In a strange bit of irony, the eruption occurred one day after the religious festival to Vulcan, the Roman god of fire. The amount of energy released by the eruption was roughly 100,000 times the thermal energy released by the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Since the cities were now unlivable, and given that this was the ancient world, people didn't travel that far. Mostly the evacuees stayed along the southern Italian coast, resettling in the communities of Cumae, Naples, Ostia, and Potello. It's hard to look around and try to think about what was going on during the time of the eruption and what the people were doing while you're stepping on these same stones that they used to walk on. These stones are huge and they're slippery from time and people. As you can imagine, everything here is uneven. There are sidewalks, or at least they seem like sidewalks. I give people credit who had canes and difficulty in walking for doing this little trip. Fortunately, we all helped people to get up and down some of the steps, and the tour guide was really good about watching for those in his charge. There are also bones of those who tried to loot the homes of the wealthy, but were overtaken by the poisonous gases, and they never made it out with their loot. Modern archaeologists have excavated garden sites and urban domains to reveal the agricultural staples of Pompeii's economy. Pompeii had a lot of fertile soil, but mostly because of Vesuvius. Walking through the streets, you can see where slaves were kept locked up. Evidence of wine imported nationally from Pompeii in its most prosperous years can be found from recovered artifacts, such as wine bottles in Rome.